6 months before Helena pushed me into the river, my father died in his sleep. Heart attack, the doctor said. He was only 53. Too young. Too sudden. I wasn't ready to lose him. The funeral was strange. Helena cried louder than anyone, throwing herself on the casket, making a scene. People whispered about how devoted she was. What a loving wife. I stood there in my black dress, dry-eyed and numb, and wondered if I was the only one who noticed how fake it all seemed. Dad and I were close. After my mother died when I was 6, it was just the two of us for 4 years. He worked hard running his construction company, building it from nothing into something successful. He made sure I never felt the whole mom left behind, even though I knew he missed her every day. Then he met Helena at a business dinner. She was a secretary for one of his clients. Beautiful, charming, attentive. She made him laugh again. I was 10 years old and I wanted my father to be happy, so I welcomed her. When they got married a year later, I called her mom because that's what she asked me to do. Looking back now, I see the signs I missed. How she always seemed to be checking Dad's phone when he wasn't looking. How she asked about his business deals, his accounts, his properties. How she smiled at me when Dad was around but her eyes went cold when we were alone. But I was a kid and then a teenager and I thought that's just how stepmothers were. Trying too hard. Uncomfortable with their role. Dad's business grew. He expanded into commercial real estate, made smart investments, built wealth that would secure our future. He always told me everything would be mine one day. The company, the properties, the money. He wanted me to finish college first, learn the business, then take over. I was studying business management, coming home on weekends to learn from him. Then he got sick. It started with fatigue. He blamed stress. Then came the chest pains, the shortness of breath. The doctor warned him to slow down, watch his diet, reduce stress. He tried, but running a company didn't allow for much rest. And Helena didn't help. She was always planning parties, wanting to travel, spending money on things we didn't need. I remember the last real conversation I had with my father. It was 2 weeks before he died. He called me to his study, looked tired and old in a way that scared me. He said he needed to tell me something important. But before he could, Helena knocked on the door. She needed him to sign some papers. She always needed him to sign papers those last few months. He told me we would talk later. We never did. After the funeral, Helena's true self came out fast. The same day people were still bringing casseroles and sympathy cards, she told me we needed to discuss my situation. My situation. Like I was a problem to be solved. She sat me down in Dad's study in his chair and explained that things were going to change. The house was hers now. The company was hers. The bank accounts were hers. Dad had revised his will 6 months before he died, making her the sole beneficiary. He left me nothing. I didn't believe her. My father would never do that. We were close. He loved me. He promised me everything. I demanded to see the will. She showed me a document with my father's signature at the bottom. Everything went to his beloved wife, Helena. There was a small clause about me receiving some personal items and a modest monthly allowance until I turned 25. I was 22. The allowance was barely enough to cover rent in a cheap apartment. I called Dad's lawyer, a man named Gregory Pierce who had handled our family's legal matters for years. He confirmed the will was real and legally filed. But something in his voice made me think he wasn't comfortable with it. When I pressed him, he said he couldn't discuss client matters. But he did say one thing before hanging up. He said I should look into when the will was revised and what Dad's condition was at that time. That's when I started digging. I found medical records showing Dad was on heavy pain medication during the month he supposedly changed his will. Medication that could affect judgment and memory. I found bank statements showing Helena had transferred large sums of money to accounts in her name only. I found documents with Dad's signature that didn't quite match his usual handwriting. I confronted Helena with what I found. That was my first mistake. Instead of going to the police or a lawyer, I confronted her directly. I was angry and hurt and I wanted her to know I was onto her. I wanted her to confess, maybe even feel guilty. She didn't confess. Didn't feel guilty. Instead, she smiled that cold smile and told me I had no proof of anything. That I was a grieving daughter looking for someone to blame. That if I tried to cause trouble, she had lawyers who would bury me. Then she told me I had 1 week to move out of the house. I refused. This was my home. My father's house. She couldn't just throw me out. We fought for weeks. Screaming matches that left me shaking and her eerily calm. She started locking me out of rooms. Changed the codes on Dad's safe. Threw out my mother's pictures that I kept in my room. I got my own lawyer, a young woman fresh out of law school who worked cheap. She said we could challenge the will but it would take time and money. Money I didn't have. Helena controlled everything. She stopped my allowance, claiming I was being hostile and ungrateful. She told the bank I was trying to commit fraud when I tried to access Dad's old accounts. I was trapped. No money, no home, no family. My friends from college didn't understand why I didn't just leave. Get a job, move on, forget about the money. But they didn't understand. This wasn't about money. This was about my father. About the truth. About not letting Helena get away with whatever she did to him. That's when I made my second mistake. I told Helena I was going to the police with my evidence. That I was going to have Dad's body exhumed and tested for poison. That I would spend the rest of my life proving she killed him. I don't actually think she poisoned him. I was angry and saying anything to scare her. But she took the threat seriously. Too seriously. That's when I knew I was right about something. Maybe not poison, but something. She had done something to my father and she was terrified of being caught. 2 days after that confrontation, she called me. Said she wanted to talk. Really talk without anger. She suggested meeting at the old bridge outside town where Dad used to take me fishing when I was little. Neutral ground, she said. A place with good memories where we could both be calm. I should have known better. Should have seen the trap. But I was desperate for any solution that didn't involve me being homeless and powerless. So I agreed. I met her at the bridge at sunset. She was already there, standing in the middle, looking out at the water. She turned when she heard me coming and smiled. Then she started talking about how this all could be simple. How she could give me some money to start over somewhere new. How we could both move on with our lives. I listened, wanting to believe it was real. Wanting to believe we could end this peacefully. Then she stopped smiling. She said there was one condition. I had to sign a document giving up any claim to Dad's estate. Admitting the will was valid and I had no right to challenge it. Basically, I had to let her win completely. I said no. I said I would never stop fighting her. That's when her expression changed. That cold calculation came into her eyes. And I knew right then that she had never intended for me to leave that bridge alive. She moved fast. Faster than I expected. Her hands hit my chest and I stumbled backward. I tried to grab the railing but my fingers slipped. Then I was falling. Falling toward the dark water below. I saw her face for just a second, watching me fall, and she wasn't smiling anymore. She looked relieved. Then I hit the water and the nightmare began. The sun was burning my face when I woke up. My whole body ached like I had been hit by a truck. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was or what happened. Then it all came rushing back. The bridge. Helena. The river. Nearly drowning. I was still lying in the bushes where I collapsed the night before. My clothes were stiff with dried mud and blood. When I tried to sit up, pain shot through my ribs and I gasped. Everything hurt. My head, my chest, my arms, my legs. I touched my face and felt dried blood crusted on my forehead. I needed help. But who could I call? I patted my pockets. My phone was gone. Lost in the river along with my wallet and keys. I had nothing. No way to contact anyone. No way to prove who I was. The sun told me it was late morning. I had been lying here for maybe 14 hours. No one had found me. No one had even come close. This part of the riverbank was isolated, surrounded by woods and private property. People didn't come here. I forced myself to stand. My legs shook but they held. I looked around, trying to figure out which direction to walk. The river curved ahead and I could see more trees. Behind me was the way I came, back toward town. But Helena might be looking for me. She would want to make sure I was dead. Going back that way was dangerous. I decided to follow the river downstream. Maybe there would be a house, a road, someone who could help. I started walking, using trees for support. Every step hurt. My right ankle was swollen and barely worked. I had to stop every few minutes to rest and breathe through the pain. The morning got hotter. I was so thirsty my throat felt like sandpaper. I knelt by the river and cupped water in my hands, drinking even though I knew it might make me sick. I didn't care. I needed water more than I needed safety. I walked for what felt like hours. The sun climbed higher. My vision started getting blurry. I knew these were signs of dehydration and exhaustion, maybe even a concussion from hitting those rocks. I needed to find help soon or I would collapse again. Then I heard something. A voice. I froze, listening. It was a man's voice, humming to himself. I pushed through some bushes and saw a small wooden dock jutting into the river. A man sat at the end with a fishing rod, a cooler beside him. He looked to be in his 30s, wearing jeans and a faded blue shirt, a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. I almost called out to him, but something made me hesitate. What if he knew Helena? What if he didn't believe me? I looked terrible. Covered in mud and blood, clothes torn, hair wild. I probably looked like a crazy person or a criminal. But I didn't have a choice. I needed help and he was here. I stepped out of the bushes and tried to speak, but my voice came out as a croak. I cleared my throat and tried again. Help, I managed to say. Please help me. The man jumped up so fast he almost dropped his fishing rod. He spun around and stared at me with wide eyes. I saw him take in my appearance, saw the shock and concern cross his face. Jesus, he said. What happened to you? I opened my mouth to answer, but suddenly the ground tilted. My legs gave out and I started falling. The man moved fast, catching me before I hit the ground. His arms were strong and steady. He lowered me down gently and knelt beside me. Okay, I got you, he said. His voice was calm, the kind of voice that made you feel safe. You're okay now. I'm Bennett. Can you tell me your name? Naomi, I whispered. Naomi, can you tell me what happened? I wanted to tell him everything, but I couldn't make the words come out right. My head was spinning and I felt sick. I managed to say, river. I fell in the river. He looked at my injuries, his face serious. You need a hospital. My truck is just up the road. Can you walk if I help you? I nodded, but when he tried to help me stand, my ankle wouldn't support any weight. I cried out in pain and he stopped immediately. All right, new plan, he said. He turned his back to me and crouched down. Climb on. I'll carry you. I was too weak to argue. I wrapped my arms around his shoulders and he stood up, lifting me easily. He was strong. He carried me like I weighed nothing, walking steadily toward the trees. I rested my head against his shoulder and let my eyes close. For the first time since Helena pushed me, I felt like maybe I would survive this. Bennett's truck was parked on a dirt road about 50 yards from the river. He set me down gently in the passenger seat and buckled my seatbelt. Then he grabbed a bottle of water from his cooler and handed it to me. Small sips, he said. Don't drink too fast. I did what he said, even though I wanted to gulp the whole bottle down. The water helped. My head cleared a little. Bennett got in the driver's seat and started the engine. The hospital is about 30 minutes from here, he said. But my sister runs a clinic about 10 minutes away. It's small, but she's a good doctor. I think we should go there first, make sure you're stable before we move you further. That okay with you? I nodded. A small clinic sounded better than a hospital anyway. At a hospital there would be records. Questions. They might contact Helena, tell her I was alive. I wasn't ready for that yet. Bennett drove carefully, avoiding the worst bumps in the dirt road. He kept glancing at me like he was afraid I might pass out. I wanted to tell him I was okay, but I wasn't sure if that was true. What were you doing out by the river? He asked. I didn't know how to answer. I couldn't tell him the truth, not yet. So I said the simplest version I could. I fell off a bridge. The current carried me downstream. He frowned. That's the bridge about 5 miles upstream? The old stone one? Yes. That's a long way to survive in that water. You're lucky to be alive. I knew he wanted to ask more. Why I fell. If it was an accident. But he didn't push. He just drove, stealing concerned looks at me every few seconds. The clinic appeared around a bend in the road. It was a small white building with blue trim, looking more like a house than a medical facility. But there was a sign out front that said Pine Valley Health Clinic, and a small parking lot with 2 other cars. Bennett pulled up close to the front door and got out. Before I could try to move, he came around and lifted me out of the truck again. He carried me inside and called out, Simone. I need help. A woman appeared from a back room. She looked like Bennett, same eyes and strong features but softer. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun and she wore scrubs. When she saw me in Bennett's arms, her eyes widened. Exam room 2, she said quickly, all business. What happened? Found her by the river, Bennett said, carrying me into a small room with an examination table. She said she fell off the bridge upstream. Simone moved fast, checking my pulse, shining a light in my eyes, feeling my ribs. I winced when she pressed on the left side. Possibly cracked ribs, she said. Pupils are reactive but sluggish. She needs fluids and a full examination. Bennett, call Sheriff Daniels. No. I said louder than I meant to. Both of them looked at me. No police. Please. Simone exchanged a look with Bennett. Honey, if someone hurt you, you need to report it. It was an accident, I lied. I just slipped. I don't want any trouble. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her face. But she nodded slowly. All right. No police for now. But I need to treat you. And you need to stay here until you're stable. Agreed? I nodded. That was fine. I needed time to think, to plan. Time to figure out what to do next. Simone started in 4 to give me fluids. She cleaned and bandaged my cuts, checked my ankle, took my temperature. She said I was hypothermic when Bennett found me but warming up now. She gave me pain medication that made everything fuzzy and soft. Bennett waited in the room the whole time, standing against the wall, watching to make sure I was okay. When Simone finished, she covered me with a warm blanket and told me to rest. I was in a real bed now in a small recovery room. The medication was pulling me toward sleep, but I fought it, needing to know more about where I was. "Thank you," I said to Bennett. "You saved my life." He shrugged, looking uncomfortable with the gratitude. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," I said. "They wouldn't. Thank you." He nodded and pulled a chair up beside the bed. "Get some sleep. You're safe here. I promise." And for some reason I believed him. Maybe it was the medication. Maybe it was exhaustion. Or maybe it was just that I had no other choice. I let my eyes close and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke up again, it was dark outside. Simone was sitting in the chair where Bennett had been, reading a medical journal by lamplight. When she noticed I was awake, she smiled. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Better," I said. And it was true. The pain was duller now, manageable. I felt less like I was dying. "Good. You've been asleep for about 8 hours. Your body needed it." She set her journal down. "Naomi, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest with me." I waited, my heart beating faster. "Did someone push you off that bridge?" I stared at her. Part of me wanted to tell the truth. To tell her everything about Helena and my father and the stolen inheritance. But another part of me, the part that was starting to think clearly again, knew that telling the truth right now would be a mistake. If Simone knew Helena tried to kill me, she would have to report it. The police would get involved. Helena would find out I survived. And then what? Helena had money, lawyers, connections. I had nothing. She would find a way to finish what she started, and this time I might not be lucky enough to survive. No, I needed a different plan. A better plan. I needed to disappear, let Helena think she won. Then I needed to get strong and find proof of what she did. Come back when I was ready, not weak and helpless like I was now. So I lied. No, it was an accident. I leaned over to look at something and lost my balance. That's all. Simone studied me for a long moment. Then she sighed. "All right. I don't believe you, but I'll respect your privacy. Just know that if you need help, if you need protection, Bennett and I can help you. You don't have to face anything alone." The kindness in her voice almost broke me. I blinked back tears and nodded. "Thank you. But I'm okay. Really." She didn't push any more. Instead, she asked practical questions. Did I have family she could call? A place to stay? I told her I was estranged from my family and currently between apartments. More lies, but necessary ones. "You can stay here while you recover," she said. "We have 2 recovery rooms. It's not much, but it's warm and safe." I accepted gratefully. I had nowhere else to go anyway. And staying here, away from town, away from Helena, gave me time to think. Over the next few days, I recovered slowly. Simone checked on me regularly, changing my bandages, monitoring my progress. Bennett visited every day, bringing me food his mother made, books to read, magazines to pass the time. He didn't ask questions about the bridge or what happened. He just kept me company, told me stories about growing up in Pine Valley, made me laugh when I didn't think I could. They were good people. Better than I deserved, given how much I was lying to them. But I promised myself that one day when this was over, I would come back and tell them the truth. I would thank them properly for saving my life. But first, I had to make sure I still had a life worth saving. I spent 5 days at Simone's clinic before I could walk without wanting to cry from the pain. My ankle was sprained badly but not broken. My ribs were bruised, not cracked. The cuts and scrapes were healing. My body was getting better even if my mind was still a mess. "No," I said firmly. "If we call the police now, what will happen? Helena has money and lawyers. She'll say I'm lying. That I'm crazy with grief over my father. She'll say I jumped and survived and now I'm making up stories. And maybe they'll believe me, but probably they won't. She's too smart. She's covered her tracks. So what's your plan? Just let her get away with it?" "No. My plan is to stay dead. Let her think she won. Then I'll gather evidence against her. Real evidence that can't be explained away. And when I have enough, I'll come back. I'll go to the police with proof she tried to kill me and probably killed my father too." Simone shook her head slowly. "That's dangerous. And complicated. What if she finds out you're alive?" "She won't. I'll be careful. I'll stay away from anyone who knows me. I'll use a different name. And I'll need help." "What kind of help?" I took a deep breath. "I need a place to stay. I need a job, something simple that pays cash. And I need time. A few months, maybe more. Just until I'm strong enough to take her down. Simone was quiet for a long time. I could see her thinking, weighing the options. Finally she said, "This is crazy. You know that, right?" "I know. And you're sure this is what you want to do?" "I'm sure." She sighed. "Okay. Here's what I can offer. You can stay in the room above our garage. It's not fancy, but it's furnished. You can work at the clinic, answering phones, filing paperwork, cleaning. I can pay you under the table. But you have to promise me something." "Anything." "You have to be careful. You have to keep in touch with me so I know you're safe. And if things get too dangerous, if she finds out you're alive, you have to promise you'll go to the police immediately." "I promise." "And one more thing." Simone looked serious. "If you're going to do this, you need to understand something. Revenge is heavy. We'll change you. Make sure it's worth it." I thought about my father. About everything Helena took from me. About the fact that she tried to murder me and would have succeeded if I hadn't been lucky. "It's worth it," I said. Simone nodded slowly. "All right then. Let's get you strong enough to fight back." That night, Bennett came by with dinner. Simone had already told him about my plan. I expected him to try to talk me out of it, but he didn't. He just set the food down and said, "How can I help?" "Why would you help me?" I asked. "You barely know me." He shrugged. "I know you enough. I know someone tried to kill you and you're too stubborn to stay dead. I know you're angry and hurt and you want justice. That's enough. You don't even know if I'm telling the truth." "I believe you," he said simply. "Simone believes you. That's good enough for me." I didn't know what to say. These people owed me nothing. They had already saved my life. But here they were, ready to help me again, no questions asked. "Thank you," I whispered. Bennett smiled. "Don't thank me yet. We've got a lot of work to do." Over the next week we planned. Simone helped me create a fake ID using the name Tessa Morgan. Bennett taught me how to change my appearance. I cut my hair short, dyed it from black to dark brown. I started wearing glasses with clear lenses. Small changes, but enough to make me look different from the old Naomi Fletcher. I moved into the room above Bennett's garage. It was small but clean, with a bed, a dresser, and a window that looked out over the woods. It felt safe. It felt like a place where I could heal and plan and prepare. I started working at the clinic 3 days after moving in. Simple tasks at first, just answering phones and organizing files. But Simone started teaching me other things too. Basic first aid, how to take vital signs, how to calm anxious patients. She said it was good for me to learn new skills. That it would help me build a new life, even if it was temporary. At night, I researched Helena. I used the laptop Simone gave me and searched through public records, social media, news articles. I learned that Helena had sold my father's construction company 2 weeks after my death. She got millions for it. She also sold 2 of the rental properties Dad owned and moved the money into offshore accounts. She was moving fast, probably worried that someone would start asking questions. I found her social media accounts. She had blocked me months ago, but under my new fake identity I could see everything. She posted pictures of herself at fancy restaurants, on vacation in Europe, buying expensive clothes. She posted about how hard it was to lose her stepdaughter, how she was coping with the grief by living life to the fullest because that's what I would have wanted. It made me so angry I had to close the laptop and walk away. But I used that anger. Let it fuel me. Let it make me stronger. I also started looking into Dad's death again. I found the name of the doctor who treated him in his final months. I found records of the medications he was on. I made notes, built timelines, looked for inconsistencies. I wasn't sure what I would find, but I knew there had to be something. The hardest part was staying hidden. Sometimes I wanted to reach out to old friends, to let someone know I was alive. But I couldn't risk it. One person telling another, word spreading, someone mentioning it where Helena could hear. It would ruin everything. So I stayed invisible. Tessa Morgan, clinic assistant, living a quiet life in Pine Valley. No one here knew Naomi Fletcher except Simone and Bennett. And I trusted them completely. 3 months after Helena pushed me into the river, I stood in front of the mirror in my small room and barely recognized myself. Short hair, glasses, 20 pounds thinner from stress and hard work. I looked older, harder, like someone who had been through hell and survived. I looked like someone who was ready to fight back. 3 months turned into 4. 4 turned into 5. I worked at the clinic during the day, researched Helena at night, and slowly rebuilt my strength. My body healed completely. The pain faded. I could run again without my ankle giving out. The nightmares about drowning came less often. But the anger never left. It burned steady and quiet, like a coal that never went cold. Simone paid me $200 a week in cash. It wasn't much, but I saved every penny. I lived cheap. Bennett refused to take rent money for the garage apartment. He said I was doing him a favor by keeping the place occupied. His mother brought me food twice a week, always too much, always delicious. She thought I was a girl down on her luck who needed help. She wasn't wrong. I got good at my job. Patients liked me. I remembered their names, asked about their families, made them feel comfortable. Simone started letting me do more. Take blood pressure. Update medical charts. Order supplies. She said I was a natural at this work. That maybe I should consider going to nursing school. But I wasn't thinking about nursing school. I was thinking about Helena. I had created a detailed timeline of everything Helena did before and after Dad's death. I marked every suspicious transaction, every document she made him sign, every person she talked to. I noted the dates and compared them to Dad's medical records. Patterns started emerging. The will was changed exactly 2 days after Dad started taking a new pain medication. Strong stuff that the doctor's notes said might cause confusion and memory problems. Helena had taken Dad to that lawyer appointment alone. Gregory Pierce, the family lawyer, had filed the will, but according to his secretary's calendar, the appointment lasted only 20 minutes. That seemed fast for completely rewriting someone's estate plan. I found bank transfers from Dad's business account to Helena's personal account that started 6 months before he died. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. By the time he died, she had moved almost $2 million. When I searched the business records, I found that Helena had been made a signatory on the company accounts just a month before the transfer started. Dad's signature was on the authorization, but it looked shaky. Wrong. I found insurance policies that had been changed to make Helena the sole beneficiary. Medical records showing Dad had requested changes to his care plan that his doctor had noted as uncharacteristic and concerning. Credit card statements showing Helena bought things in Dad's name after he was too sick to leave the house. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same thing. Helena had been stealing from Dad for months. She isolated him, controlled his medication, manipulated him into signing documents he didn't understand. And when he started to figure it out, or when I started asking too many questions, she accelerated her plans. I couldn't prove she killed him. But I could prove she stole from him. I could prove the will was signed under suspicious circumstances. And I could prove she tried to kill me, if I could just figure out how to come back from the dead without getting killed for real this time. That was the problem I kept running into. How do you return from being dead without giving your attempted murderer advance warning? Helena had money and resources. If she found out I was alive before I was ready, she would run, or worse, finish what she started. I needed a lawyer. Someone smart and tough who would believe my story and know how to handle this legally. But I couldn't just walk into a lawyer's office as Naomi Fletcher, dead girl. I needed to be strategic. That's when I thought of Gregory Pierce again. Dad's old lawyer. The man who had filed Helena's version of the will but had sounded uncomfortable about it on the phone. The man who had told me to look into Dad's condition when the will was changed. He knew something. I was sure of it. Maybe he had doubts about the will. Maybe Helena had pressured him. Maybe he had evidence that could help me. But how could I approach him without tipping off Helena? I spent days thinking about it. Then Bennett gave me an idea without meaning to. He was talking about his uncle who was a private investigator in the city. He mentioned how PIs could get information without people knowing they were being investigated. That was it. I needed to hire a private investigator to look into Gregory Pierce. Find out if he had concerns about the will. See if he had any evidence or testimony that could help me. But private investigators cost money. More money than I had saved. I talked to Simone about it. She listened to my plan, then went quiet for a long time. How much do you need? She finally asked. I don't know. Maybe a few $1,000s? I can loan you the money. No, I said immediately. You've already done so much. I can't take more from you. You're not taking. I'm offering. And you'll pay me back when you get your inheritance back from that woman. Simone. Naomi. She used my real name, which she rarely did. It made me look at her. You saved $5,000 working here for 5 months. That's impressive. But it's not enough for what you need to do. Let me help. I wanted to argue, but she was right. I needed help. So I accepted her loan with a promise to pay back every penny. Finding a private investigator was easier than I thought. Bennett's uncle knew someone in the city who was good and discreet. A woman named Rachel Kim who specialized in financial fraud cases. I called her, explained that I needed information about a lawyer who might have been involved in questionable estate planning. I didn't tell her who I was or about Helena yet. Just asked if she could investigate Gregory Pierce and his business dealings. She said she could. Her rate was $150 an hour plus expenses. I sent her $3,000 and told her to start digging. While Rachel worked, I focused on the other problem. The body Helena claimed was mine. That woman deserved justice too. She deserved to have her real name known and her family notified. But more than that, proving Helena lied about the identification would be a huge piece of evidence against her. I started researching missing persons reports from around the time of my death. I looked for women who matched my general description. Age, height, race. There were dozens. Too many. It made me sad to think about all these missing people, all these families still wondering what happened to their loved ones. I narrowed it down by location. The body was found 8 miles downstream from where I went into the water. Depending on the current and time in the water, she probably entered the river somewhere between my bridge and the next town north. I focused on women who went missing from that area in the week before my death. That gave me 3 possibilities. All 3 women were in their 20s. All 3 had been missing for months before the body was found. Any of them could have been the woman Helena claimed was me. I wanted to contact the police, tell them to recheck the identification. But I couldn't. Not yet. So I made notes, saved everything, and waited for Rachel to get back to me. 6 weeks after I hired her, Rachel called. She had information. We met at a diner 2 towns over. Rachel was a small woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She slid a folder across the table to me and got straight to business. Gregory Pierce is clean on paper, she said. Good reputation, no complaints to the Bar Association, been practicing for 30 years. But I talked to people who work with him. His secretary, his paralegal, other lawyers in his building. And they all said the same thing. What? About 6 months before your father died, Helena Fletcher started coming around a lot. At first it was normal. She was the wife helping her sick husband with legal matters. But then she started having private meetings with Pierce. Meetings without your father. His secretary said Pierce seemed uncomfortable about it. Started closing his door when Helena came in, which he never used to do. My pulse quickened. Go on. The secretary remembers the day the will was changed. Your father came in but he could barely walk. Helena had to help him into the office. The appointment was short. The secretary heard raised voices at one point. Then they left and a week later, Helena came back alone and picked up the finalized will. So Pierce knows something. He knows something, Rachel agreed. And I think he wants to talk about it. His paralegal told me Pierce has been different since your father died. Quieter. Sad almost. Like something is eating at him. She thinks he did something he regrets. This was exactly what I needed. Gregory Pierce had doubts. He might even have evidence. But I still had the same problem. How could I approach him without revealing I was alive and alerting Helena? Rachel had a solution. Let me approach him first. As an investigator looking into irregularities in estate planning. I won't mention you specifically. I'll just ask him about the Fletcher will and see how he reacts. If he seems willing to talk, I'll set up a meeting. But here's the thing. She looked at me seriously. If you want this to work, if you want to take Helena down legally, you're going to have to reveal yourself eventually. You can't build a case while staying dead. I knew she was right. But the thought of revealing myself before I was ready terrified me. Let's see what Pierce says first, I told her. Then we'll figure out the next steps. Rachel nodded and left. I sat in the diner for a long time after she was gone, drinking cold coffee and thinking. 5 months of hiding. 5 months of watching Helena live her best life on my father's money. 5 months of being dead while she celebrated getting away with attempted murder. It was almost over. Soon I would have enough evidence. Soon I would be ready to come back. But the closer I got to that day, the more scared I became. Not of Helena. I wasn't afraid of her anymore. I was afraid of what revenge was turning me into. I was afraid that when this was over, when Helena was in prison and I had my money back, I would still be empty inside. Simone had warned me that revenge was heavy. She was right. I carried it every day and it was getting heavier. But I couldn't stop now. I had come too far. Done too much. I owed it to my father. I owed it to myself. And I owed it to that nameless woman in the river whose body Helena used to fake my death. So I kept going. Kept planning. Kept building my case. And waited for the right moment to rise from the dead. Rachel called me 2 weeks later. She had talked to Gregory Pierce and he wanted to meet. But he had conditions. He'll only meet with Naomi Fletcher, Rachel said. The real Naomi, not a representative or investigator. He says he needs to make sure you're actually alive before he talks. My heart started pounding. How does he know I'm alive? I told him. I had to. He wasn't going to talk otherwise. But don't worry, I trust him. And more importantly, I made him understand that if he tells anyone, especially Helena, you could be in danger. He took that seriously. When does he want to meet? Tomorrow. 2 o'clock. His office. He says to come to the back entrance and he'll let you in personally. No one else will know you're there. I agreed. This was it. The moment I stopped hiding and started fighting back for real. The next day Bennett drove me to the city. We didn't talk much during the hour-long drive. He could tell I was nervous. When we got close to Pierce's office building, he pulled over and looked at me. You don't have to do this if you're not ready, he said. I'm ready. Okay. But I'm going to be right here waiting. If anything feels wrong, if you get scared, you call me and I'll come get you. Got it? I nodded and got out of the truck. My hands were shaking. Pierce's office was in an old building downtown. I walked around to the back like Rachel instructed and found a plain metal door. Before I could knock, it opened. Gregory Pierce stood there, looking older than I remembered. His hair had more gray and his face had more lines. When he saw me, he went pale. Jesus, he whispered. It really is you. Can I come in? He stepped back and let me inside. We walked through a back hallway into his private office. He closed the door, locked it, then turned to face me. How? He asked. Helena identified your body. There was a funeral. She lied. That body wasn't me. I survived the river and I've been hiding while I build a case against her. Pierce sat down heavily in his chair. He looked shaken. I should have known. I should have done something. Done something about what? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, your father didn't want to change his will. He was sick and confused, but he knew what Helena was trying to do. He told me no. Multiple times. But she kept bringing him back. Kept pressuring him. And finally, he trailed off looking ashamed. Finally what? Finally I helped her do it. I'm not proud of it. She convinced me it was what he really wanted deep down. That he was just confused from the medication. She was very persuasive. And I was weak. I let her manipulate me into manipulating him. The anger I expected to feel didn't come. Instead, I just felt tired. Did you know she tried to kill me? No. God, no. I thought you really died accidentally. When I heard about it, I felt sick. I knew I had pushed you to fight her by filing that will. I felt responsible for your death. I'm not dead. I can see that. He leaned forward. What do you need from me? I need you to tell the truth. About how that will was created. About Helena pressuring my father. About the irregularities. I need you to testify if it comes to that. I'll lose my license. Maybe even face criminal charges. I know. And I'm sorry. But you're the only one who can prove what she did to my father. Pierce was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. All right. I'll do it. I should have done it months ago. I'll give you everything. Documents, records of meetings, my testimony. Whatever you need. Relief washed over me. Thank you. But there's something you need to know. He looked serious. Helena is dangerous. More dangerous than you realize. She's been planning this for years. She married your father specifically for his money. I've been doing some digging since you hired that investigator. Helena's real name isn't Helena Fletcher. It's Helena Cortez. She's done this before. The room tilted. What? She was married twice before your father. Both husbands died within a few years of marriage. Both left everything to her. The police investigated the first one but couldn't prove anything. The second one was ruled natural causes. She's smart. She knows how to make deaths look like accidents. I felt sick. She killed my father. Probably. But again, proving it will be nearly impossible. She's too careful. The best we can do is prove the fraud. Prove she stole from him and forged documents and tried to kill you. That should be enough to put her away for a long time. How do I prove she tried to kill me? You testify. You tell the police what happened. You're alive. You're proof she failed. She'll say I'm lying. That I jumped and survived and now I'm making up stories. Not if we build the case right. Not if we show the pattern of abuse, the theft, the manipulation. Not if we prove she lied about identifying your body. Pierce pulled out a file and handed it to me. I've been collecting information. Everything I could find about Helena's past, her other marriages, the financial irregularities in your father's accounts. It's all here. Take it. Use it. And when you're ready to go to the police, tell them to call me. I'll back you up. I took the file with shaking hands. This was more than I hoped for. This was everything I needed. Thank you, I said. Really? Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You still have the hard part ahead. You have to stay alive long enough to take her down. I left Pierce's office through the back door and found Bennett waiting in his truck. I climbed in, clutching the file, and he drove me back to Pine Valley. I didn't open the file during the drive. I needed to be somewhere safe when I looked at what was inside. Back in my apartment above Bennett's garage, I spread everything out on the bed. There were dozens of documents. Marriage certificates for Helena's previous marriages. Death certificates for her previous husbands. Financial records showing similar patterns of theft in both cases. Police reports from the first husband's death investigation. Medical records showing he died from a heart attack at age 47 with no previous heart problems. The second husband died from a fall down the stairs. The police report noted that his widow, Helena, was the only witness. She claimed he tripped. There were no signs of struggle. No evidence of foul play. The case was closed. My father made number 3. Another convenient death. Another grieving widow who inherited everything. I looked at pictures of the first 2 men. They looked like my dad. Successful. A little older. Kind faces. Men who probably thought they were lucky to find a beautiful woman who loved them. Men who didn't realize they were being hunted. There was also information about Helena's real background. She grew up poor in a small town. Dropped out of high school. Worked odd jobs until she was 25, then suddenly married a wealthy man. After he died, she lived well for a few years, then married again. And again. And again. She was a predator. My father never stood a chance. I spent the rest of that day reading through everything Pierce had given me. By the end, I had a clear picture of who Helena really was and what she had done. I also had a plan. Tomorrow I would call the police. I would tell them everything. I would provide evidence, testimony, witnesses. I would expose Helena for exactly what she was. But before I did that, I wanted to see her face. I wanted her to know I was alive and coming for her. I wanted her to feel the fear I felt when she pushed me into that river. So I made one final decision. Before I went to the police, I would go back to town. I would let Helena see me. Just once. Just long enough to let her know her nightmare was beginning. It was petty. It was risky. But I needed it. I needed her to know she failed. The next morning I dressed carefully. Nice jeans, a simple black shirt, my hair styled differently than before. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked strong. Healthy. Alive. Bennett drove me to town and parked across the street from my father's house. My old house. Helena's house now. Are you sure about this? Bennett asked. I'm sure. I'll be right here. You stay visible. Don't go inside. Just let her see you and get back to the truck. I nodded and got out. My heart was racing, but I wasn't afraid. I walked across the street and up the driveway. Helena's expensive car was parked outside. She was home. I stood on the sidewalk in front of the house in clear view of the windows and waited. After a few minutes I saw movement inside. A curtain pulled back. Then Helena's face appeared in the window. Our eyes met. I watched her face change. Confusion first. Then recognition. Then pure horror. Her mouth opened in a silent scream. The curtain dropped and she disappeared from the window. I smiled. Then I turned and walked back to Bennett's truck. Done? He asked. Done. Let's go to the police station. As we drove away, I looked back once at the house. I saw Helena in the doorway staring after us, her face white as a ghost. She knew now. The dead girl was back. And she was coming for her. The police station was smaller than I expected. Just a one-story building with a tiny parking lot and an American flag out front. Bennett parked and turned off the engine. You want me to come in with you? He asked. No. I need to do this alone. But thank you. I got out and walked inside. A young officer sat at the front desk playing on his phone. He looked up when I entered. Can I help you? I need to report an attempted murder and fraud. That got his attention. He put down his phone and grabbed a pen. Name? Naomi Fletcher. His pen stopped moving. He stared at me. Naomi Fletcher is dead. No. I'm not. He looked at me like I was crazy. Ma'am, I need to see some identification. I had expected this. I pulled out my old driver's license that I had been carrying since the river. It was water damaged but still readable. He took it, compared the picture to my face, and his eyes went wide. Holy! He stood up fast. Wait here. Don't move. He disappeared into a back office. I heard urgent voices. Then he came back with an older man in a detective's badge. The detective looked at me with sharp, assessing eyes. I'm Detective Warren, he said. You're claiming to be Naomi Fletcher? I am Naomi Fletcher. Come with me. The water was so cold it felt like 1,000 blades cutting into my skin at once. I couldn't scream because my lungs had no air left. The river current pulled me down, spun me around, and I didn't know which way was up anymore. My arms flailed, trying to grab onto something, anything, but there was nothing except dark water and pain. Just 30 seconds ago I was standing on the bridge. Helena's face was the last thing I saw before her hands slammed into my chest. I remembered the look in her eyes. Not anger. Not rage. Just cold calculation. Like I was a problem she was finally solving. My head broke the surface for 1 second and I gasped. Water filled my mouth instead of air. I was choking, drowning, dying. The current dragged me under again and my body hit something hard. A rock. Pain exploded in my ribs and I wanted to cry out but I couldn't. More rocks scraped my arms and legs as the river threw me around like I was nothing. I thought about my father. How he would feel knowing this was how I died. Then I remembered he was already gone. 6 months in the ground. That's why Helena could do this. There was no one left to protect me. No one left who loved me. The thought made me want to give up. Let the water take me. Stop fighting. But something in me wouldn't quit. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was anger. My fingers found a rock jutting out from the riverbed and I held on with everything I had. The current pulled at my body, trying to rip me away. My shoulder felt like it was tearing apart but I didn't let go. I pulled myself along the rock, then found another one. And another. My lungs were screaming. Black spots danced in my vision. I didn't know if I was going the right way. I just kept pulling myself forward, rock by rock, even though every muscle in my body was giving up. Then suddenly my hand touched air instead of water. I pulled harder and my head broke the surface. Air. Sweet, painful air rushed into my lungs. I coughed up water and grabbed onto the muddy riverbank. My arms shook so hard I thought I would slip back in. But I dug my fingers into the mud and pulled. Pulled with strength I didn't know I had. Pulled until my chest was out of the water. Then my waist. Then my legs. I collapsed on the bank, water pouring from my mouth and nose. Everything hurt. My clothes were torn and stuck to my body. Blood mixed with river water on my arms and face. I was so cold my teeth chattered so hard I bit my tongue. The taste of blood filled my mouth. I tried to stand but my legs wouldn't work. I crawled instead, away from the water, into the bushes along the riverbank. Tree branches scratched my face but I didn't care. I just needed to get away from the river. Away from the water that almost killed me. When I finally stopped crawling, I rolled onto my back and stared at the sky. It was getting dark. How long was I in the water? An hour? More? I had no idea. My whole body shook from cold and shock. I wanted to cry but I was too tired even for that. Helena's face flashed in my mind again. The way she smiled before she pushed me. She planned this. She brought me to that bridge on purpose. Told me she wanted to talk, to make peace after months of fighting. I was stupid enough to believe her. Stupid enough to think my stepmother might actually care about me after my father died. The fighting started small after Dad's funeral. Helena questioning why I needed my own bank account. Why I wanted to keep Dad's study locked. Why I was asking about his will. Then it got worse. She started going through my things. Taking jewelry that belonged to my mother, my real mother who died when I was 6. Dad married Helena when I was 10 and for years she played the perfect stepmother. But the second he was gone, the mask came off. I should have seen it coming. Should have left when she started getting aggressive. But this was my home. My father's house. I thought I had rights. I thought the law would protect me. But Helena was smart. She had Dad change his will before he got sick. Made herself the executor. Suddenly everything belonged to her and I was just a guest in my own house. When I threatened to fight her in court, she got scared. I saw it in her eyes. That's when she invited me for a walk. To talk things over peacefully, she said. Clear the air. I met her at the bridge because I wanted to believe we could work it out. That we could both move on without destroying each other. Instead, she destroyed me. Or tried to. I lay there in the bushes, shaking and bleeding, and I made myself a promise. If I survived this night, Helena would regret the day she pushed me. She wanted me dead? She wanted me gone? Fine. I would disappear. But I would come back when she least expected it. And when I did, she would lose everything. My eyes started to close. I was so tired. So cold. A small voice in my head whispered that I should get up, find help, keep moving. But my body wouldn't listen. The darkness was pulling me down just like the river did. Part of me thought maybe this was it. Maybe I survived the water just to die here in the mud. But I didn't die. Not that night. Something wouldn't let me. Maybe it was that promise I made. Maybe it was rage burning somewhere deep inside me, keeping me warm when I should have frozen to death. Whatever it was, It kept my heart beating through that long, cold night. When I opened my eyes again, the sun was coming up. Everything hurt worse than before. My lips were blue and cracked. My fingers were numb. But I was alive. I had survived Helena's attempt to kill me, and that meant I had won the first battle. Now I just had to win the war. He led me to a small interview room and gestured to a chair. I sat. He sat across from me and pulled out a recorder. I'm going to record this conversation. Is that okay? Yes. He turned on the recorder and stated the date and time. Then he looked at me. Tell me everything. So I did. I told him about my father's death and Helena's sudden control of everything. I told him about discovering the financial irregularities and confronting her. I told him about the bridge and how she pushed me. About surviving the river and hiding for months. About Helena identifying someone else's body as mine. I told him about Gregory Pierce and the suspicious will. About Helena's previous husbands who died conveniently. About the evidence Pierce had collected. I talked for over an hour while Detective Warren listened and took notes. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "This is one of the most elaborate stories I've ever heard." My stomach dropped. It's not a story. It's the truth. I believe you. The problem is, proving all of this is going to be complicated. We need to verify your identity. We need to exhume the body we buried as you and re-identify it. We need to investigate the will and your father's death. And we need to move fast because if what you say is true, Helena Fletcher knows you're alive as of this morning and she might run. What do you need from me? First, we fingerprint you and compare them to Naomi Fletcher's records. If they match, we know you're who you say you are. Then we need you to give a formal statement with all the details. Then we need to contact Gregory Pierce and get his testimony. Then we bring Helena in for questioning. What if she runs before you can arrest her? Then we issue a warrant and track her down. But let's take this one step at a time. The fingerprinting took 20 minutes. While we waited for results, Detective Warren made phone calls. He contacted the coroner about exhuming the body. He contacted a judge about search warrants for Helena's financial records. He contacted Gregory Pierce's office. The fingerprints came back matching. I was definitely Naomi Fletcher. The officer who delivered the results looked at me like I was a ghost. I guess in a way I was. Detective Warren took my formal statement next. Every detail I could remember. Times, dates, conversations, actions. He asked questions when things weren't clear. He made me go over the bridge scene 3 times to make sure he had it exact. By the time we finished, it was late afternoon. I was exhausted. My throat hurt from talking. But Warren looked energized. He had the light in his eyes of a detective who just caught a big case. "All right," he said. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm sending officers to Helena's house right now to bring her in for questioning. We'll hold her as long as we can. Meanwhile, we're getting warrants for her financial records, phone records, everything. We're contacting your father's doctor and the hospital for medical records. We're setting up a meeting with Gregory Pierce tomorrow. And we're expediting the exhumation order for the body buried under your name." How long will all this take? A few days for most of it. The exhumation might take a week. But we should know within 48 hours if we have enough to charge her. What should I do? Go home. Stay safe. Stay in contact. And don't do anything stupid like trying to confront Helena yourself. I won't. He didn't look like he believed me, but he let me go. Bennett was still waiting in the parking lot. When I got in the truck, he looked at me closely. How'd it go? Good. They believe me. They're bringing Helena in right now. So it's almost over. Almost. We drove back to Pine Valley in silence. I was too tired to talk. Too wired to relax. I kept thinking about Helena being questioned by police. About her realizing she was caught. About the moment she would understand that I had won. When we got back, Simone was waiting at the clinic. Bennett must have texted her because she already knew I had gone to the police. She hugged me tight. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I don't know. I feel weird. Like this isn't real." "It's real. You did it. You built a case against her and now she's going to pay." "I hope so." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Every detail I told the police. Every piece of evidence I handed over. Every moment leading up to this. Around midnight my phone rang. It was Detective Warren. "Helena Fletcher lawyered up immediately," he said. "Won't answer any questions. But here's the interesting part. When we executed the search warrant on her house, we found plane tickets to Brazil for tomorrow morning. One way. She was planning to run." My chest tightened. "So you can hold her?" "We can hold her for 48 hours while we build the case. After that, we need to charge her or let her go. But with the flight risk established, I can ask for her to be held without bail. Good. There's something else. We found documents in her house. Forged signatures, fake records, evidence of financial fraud. She kept everything. I think she was too arrogant to think she'd get caught. She's made this easy for us. Relief flooded through me. So you have enough? We have enough for fraud and forgery charges. The attempted murder will be harder to prove since it's your word against hers. But the fraud charges alone will put her away for years. What about my father? Can you prove she killed him? Warren was quiet. That's going to be tough. The autopsy said heart attack. His doctor will testify he had risk factors. Without hard evidence of poisoning or foul play, we can't prove murder. But we can prove she stole from him while he was sick and manipulated him into changing his will. That counts for something. It wasn't everything I wanted. But it was something. It was justice even if it wasn't perfect. Thank you, I said. For believing me. Thank me when she's convicted. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. I tried to sleep but couldn't. Around 3 in the morning I gave up and went outside. The air was cool and fresh. Stars filled the sky. I thought about my father looking at these same stars. I hoped wherever he was, he knew I was fighting for him. The next day, Detective Warren called again. Gregory Pierce had given his statement. Everything he told me, he told the police. He admitted to helping Helena manipulate my father into changing the will. He provided documents showing the timeline and the irregularities. He was willing to testify in court. The day after that, Warren called with more news. They had traced Helena's past. Found records of her previous marriages. Found suspicious circumstances in both deaths. While they couldn't prove murder, the pattern was clear. Helena was a black widow who married for money and eliminated her husbands when convenient. They also identified the body buried under my name. She was a woman named Cara Mills who had been missing for 3 months before Helena found her body and claimed it was me. Cara's family was devastated to learn what happened but grateful to finally have answers. On the 3rd day, the district attorney charged Helena with attempted murder, fraud, forgery, theft, and filing a false police report. Bail was set at $2 million. Helena couldn't make it. She would stay in jail until trial. Detective Warren called me with the news. It's over, he said. She's not getting out. And based on the evidence, the DA thinks we have a strong case. She's looking at 20 years minimum. 20 years. It seemed like a lot and not enough at the same time. 20 years wouldn't bring back my father. 20 years wouldn't give me back the months I spent hiding and afraid. But 20 years meant Helena would lose everything just like she made me lose everything. Thank you, I said to Warren. For everything. You did the hard part. You survived and you fought back. That takes guts. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment for a long time. It was really over. Helena was in jail. I was free. I could reclaim my life, my father's money, my future. But I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired. And empty. Like I had spent so long focused on revenge that I forgot what came after. Simone found me sitting there an hour later. She took one look at my face and sat down beside me. You okay? She asked. I don't know. I thought I would feel better when this was over. But I just feel hollow. That's normal. You've been running on anger and determination for months. Now that you don't need those things anymore, you don't know what to feel. How do I move forward? One day at a time. You grieve your father properly. You rebuild your life. You figure out who you are now after everything you've been through. And you remember that you're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. You survived a murder attempt and rebuilt yourself from nothing. If that's not strong, I don't know what is. She was right. I had survived. And now I had to figure out how to live. The weeks after Helena's arrest were strange. My life became a series of legal meetings, court dates, and interviews. The district attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Cole, walked me through what to expect at trial. She said the evidence was strong but I would need to testify. I would need to face Helena in court and tell my story again. I told her I was ready. I wasn't sure if that was true but I said it anyway. The news spread fast. Local papers picked up the story. Local woman faked death to frame stepdaughter, was the headline. Then bigger papers found it. Then news stations. Suddenly everyone wanted to talk to me. Reporters called the clinic. They showed up at Bennett's house. They wanted interviews, photos, my story. I said no to all of them. Patricia advised me not to talk to media until after the trial. She said anything I said could be used against us. So I stayed quiet and let the reporters make up their own stories. Some of them painted me as a hero. A brave woman who survived and fought back. Others painted me as dramatic, questioning why I didn't go to the police immediately. A few even suggested I made the whole thing up for attention or money. Those articles made me angry, but Patricia told me to ignore them. Public opinion didn't matter. Only the evidence mattered. Gregory Pierce lost his law license. The state bar investigated him and found he had violated ethical rules by helping Helena manipulate my father. He accepted the punishment without fighting. He told me privately that he deserved worse. I felt bad for him, but I also knew he made his choices. We all had to live with consequences. The body that Helena claimed was me was finally identified properly. Cara Mills had been 23, a waitress from the next town over who disappeared after her shift one night. Her family held a proper funeral. I attended even though I didn't know her. I felt like I owed her that. Her mother hugged me and cried and thanked me for finding the truth. I cried too. The court date for Helena's bail hearing came. I didn't attend, but Patricia called me after with good news. The judge denied bail. Helena would stay in jail until trial. Patricia said Helena looked different in court. Thinner, paler, no makeup or fancy clothes. She looked like what she was. A criminal. I tried to feel satisfaction hearing that, but I just felt sad. Sad that my father had been fooled by this woman. Sad that 2 other men had died because of her. Sad that so many lives had been ruined. Bennett noticed I was struggling. He started taking me on drives through the mountains, showing me places he loved as a kid. He taught me how to fish in the same river that almost killed me. At first, I couldn't stand being near the water. But slowly, I learned to see it differently. Not as the place I almost died, but as the place I survived. Simone kept me busy at the clinic. She said work was good for processing trauma. She was right. Helping patients, making them comfortable, seeing them get better. It reminded me that good things still existed in the world. My father's lawyer, not Pierce but a new one Patricia helped me find, started the process of reclaiming my inheritance. It would take time. The courts had to invalidate Helena's version of the will. They had to trace all the money she stole and move it back to my name. They had to transfer property titles and business ownership. He said it could take months or even years to sort everything out completely. I didn't care about the timeline. The money wasn't going anywhere. And honestly, I wasn't sure what I would do with it when I got it back. It felt tainted now. Blood money in a way. I thought about my father every day. Wondered what he would think of everything that happened. Would he be proud of me for fighting back? Or would he be sad that I had to go through this at all? I wished I could ask him. Wished I could hear his voice one more time. 3 months after Helena's arrest, Patricia called with news. Helena wanted to make a deal. She would plead guilty to fraud and theft in exchange for the attempted murder charge being dropped. The plea would give her 15 years instead of the 20+ she would get if convicted on all charges. What do you think? Patricia asked. It's your call. We can take it to trial and fight for all the charges. Or we can accept the plea and guarantee she goes away for 15 years. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted a trial. Wanted to testify and tell the world what she did. Wanted her to hear me call her out for trying to kill me. But another part of me was tired. So tired. I didn't want to spend more months preparing for trial. Didn't want to relive the bridge and the river over and over. Will she have to admit to everything? I asked. As part of the plea? Yes. She has to allocute. That means she has to tell the court exactly what she did. Stealing from your father, manipulating him, forging documents. All of it. What about pushing me in the river? That won't be part of the allocution if we drop the attempted murder charge. I closed my eyes. This was the decision. Justice or peace. Making her pay for everything or just taking the guaranteed win. Take the deal, I said finally. 15 years is enough. I just want this to be over. Are you sure? I'm sure. Patricia accepted Helena's plea offer. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Patricia said I could make a victim impact statement if I wanted. I could tell the judge how Helena's actions affected me. I said yes. I had things I needed to say. Those 2 weeks passed in a blur. I wrote my statement, rewrote it again. I practiced saying it out loud. I wanted to get it right. I wanted my words to matter. The day of the sentencing, Bennett drove me to the courthouse. Simone came too. They both said they wanted to support me. I was grateful. I don't think I could have done this alone. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling on the walls, a judge's bench up front, rows of seats for observers. A few reporters sat in the back. Cara Mills' family sat on one side. On the other side sat no one. Helena had no family. No friends. She was alone. Helena was already there when I walked in, sitting at a table with her lawyer. She wore an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. Her hair was pulled back simply. No makeup. She looked older, harder. When she saw me, her expression didn't change. She just stared at me with those cold eyes. I stared back. I wasn't afraid of her anymore. The judge came in and everyone stood. The hearing began. Helena's lawyer spoke first, talking about her troubled childhood and mental health issues. Asking for leniency. I almost laughed. Leniency after everything she did. Then Patricia spoke. She laid out all of Helena's crimes. The theft, the fraud, the manipulation. She talked about my father being sick and vulnerable. She talked about me being pushed into a river and left to die. She talked about Cara Mills' family losing their daughter twice, first to whatever killed her and then to Helena's lies. Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium on shaky legs. I pulled out my statement and looked at the judge. Your Honor, my name is Naomi Fletcher, I began. 6 months ago, Helena Fletcher pushed me off a bridge and left me to drown. I survived, but she told the world I was dead. She used someone else's tragedy to cover her crime. And while I was in hiding, rebuilding my life from nothing, she lived comfortably on my father's money. Money she stole from him while he was dying. I looked at Helena. She was staring at the table now, not meeting my eyes. Helena didn't just steal money. She stole my father's final months. She isolated him, confused him, made him sign documents he didn't understand. She took advantage of his pain and his trust. And when I started asking questions, she tried to kill me. My voice shook, but I kept going. For months I thought about revenge. I thought about making her suffer the way she made me suffer. But standing here now, I realize something. She already lost. She lost the moment she pushed me and I survived. Because I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I'm still living. And she's going to prison. I folded my statement. I don't forgive her. I never will. But I don't need to. I just need to move forward. I need to honor my father by living a good life. By being better than she ever was. That's my justice. I stepped down and returned to my seat. Bennett squeezed my hand. Simone wiped tears from her eyes. The judge looked at Helena. Does the defendant wish to say anything? Helena's lawyer whispered to her. She shook her head. She had nothing to say. The judge looked disappointed. Then she pronounced the sentence. 15 years in state prison. No possibility of parole for at least 10 years. Helena showed no emotion. She just sat there like a statue. Guards came and led her away. She walked past me without looking. And then she was gone. Patricia came over and hugged me. It's over. Really over. She can't hurt you anymore. I nodded. I felt numb. This was supposed to be the triumphant moment. The victory. But I just felt empty. Outside the courthouse, Cara's family found me. Her mother hugged me again. Thank you, she said. Thank you for finding the truth about our daughter. At least now we know. I'm so sorry for your loss, I said. I'm sorry for yours too. We stood there crying together, two families destroyed by the same woman. It felt fitting somehow. Sad and fitting. Bennett drove us back to Pine Valley. None of us talked much. What was there to say? It was over. The monster was caged. Justice was served. But it didn't feel like enough. It never would. The days after the sentencing were quiet. Too quiet. For months, my life had revolved around building the case against Helena. Every decision, every action, every thought connected back to that goal. Now that goal was accomplished and I didn't know what to do with myself. The legal process of reclaiming my inheritance continued. My new lawyer, a patient man named Thomas Reed, walked me through each step. We filed petitions with the court to invalidate Helena's will. We identified all the stolen assets and began the process of recovering them. We dealt with taxes and fees and 100 other complications. The house where I grew up stood empty now. It belonged to the state until the legal issues were resolved. Thomas said I should be able to reclaim it within a few months. I wasn't sure if I wanted it. Too many bad memories lived in those walls now. The construction company my father built was more complicated. Helena had sold it to a larger firm before her arrest. That sale was legal, even though the ownership transfer to her hadn't been. Thomas said we might be able to reverse the sale or at least get fair compensation. It would take time. The money in various accounts was frozen pending court orders. Helena had moved millions into offshore accounts and investments. Tracking it all down would take years. But Thomas was thorough. He promised me every cent would be recovered eventually. I didn't care much about the money anymore. It felt meaningless. Dad built that wealth planning to share it with me to secure my future. Instead, it had gotten him killed. What was I supposed to do with blood money? But Thomas convinced me the money mattered. Not just for me but for what I could do with it. I could honor my father by using it well. By doing good with it. That got me thinking. What would Dad want me to do? He was always generous. Always helping people. He donated to local schools, sponsored kids' sports teams, gave jobs to people who needed second chances. He believed in building up the community. So I decided that's what I would do. When I got the money back, I would use it to help people. I would start a foundation in Dad's name. Something that would last longer than both of us. The idea gave me purpose. Something to work toward beyond revenge. Patricia Cole checked in regularly to make sure I was doing okay. She seemed genuinely concerned about me, not just as a witness but as a person. She invited me to lunch one day and we talked about everything except the case. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you." "I don't know. I've been thinking about going back to school. I never finished my degree." "What were you studying?" "Business management. I was going to help my dad run the company." The memory stung. That doesn't matter anymore. Maybe it does. You could get your degree and use it to run your foundation. Or start a new business. Honor your father by being successful like he was. I like that idea. Maybe I will. What about staying here? In Pine Valley? I looked around at the small town surrounding us. I don't know. This isn't my home. But it could be. You have people here who care about you. Simone Bennett. You have a job and a place to stay. Sometimes the best thing we can do after trauma is build something new. She was right. Pine Valley had become home without me realizing it. The clinic, the apartment above Bennett's garage, the quiet streets and friendly people. It felt safe in a way my old life never did. "I'll think about it," I said. Back at the clinic, Simone cornered me in the break room. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" "About you. About your future here." I tensed. "Are you firing me?" "What? No. The opposite. I want to offer you a full-time position. Not just answering phones but actual medical assistant work. I'll pay for your certification if you're interested. You're good at this, Naomi. You connect with patients. You care. That's rare." I hadn't expected this. I thought this was temporary. That I would leave once everything was resolved. It doesn't have to be temporary. Unless you want it to be. But I'm telling you, you have a place here if you want it. A real place, not just somewhere to hide. The offer moved me more than I expected. For months I felt like I was just existing, just surviving day to day. But Simone was offering me a real future. A career. A purpose. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "Take all the time you need." That night, Bennett knocked on my apartment door. He held 2 cups of coffee and a bag of donuts. "Thought you might want company," he said. I let him in and we sat on the small couch together. He handed me a coffee and we ate donuts in comfortable silence. This had become our routine over the past months. He would check on me most evenings, bring food or coffee, and we would just sit together. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. It was nice. "Simone told me she offered you a full-time job," he said. "She did. Are you going to take it?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to go back to my old life. Finish school, live in the city, do what I planned before all this happened. And the other part? The other part thinks that life is gone. That girl who had those plans doesn't exist anymore. I'm different now. Maybe I need a different life." Bennett was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. I think you survived something horrible and came out the other side. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're tough. And whatever you decide to do, wherever you decide to go, you'll be okay." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've watched you for 6 months. I've seen you at your lowest and I've seen you rebuild yourself. You're not the kind of person who gives up. So whatever you choose, you'll make it work." His faith in me was overwhelming. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe I could be okay. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Anything. Why did you help me? You didn't know me. You didn't owe me anything. But you saved my life and you stuck with me through all of this. Why?" He looked at his coffee for a long time. Then he said, "My mom always taught us to help people who needed it. No questions asked. When I found you by the river, you needed help. Simple as that. It wasn't simple. You risked a lot. Maybe. But it was the right thing to do. And somewhere along the way, helping you stopped being an obligation and started being something I wanted to do. You're important to me, Naomi. You're my friend. And I care about what happens to you." My throat got tight. "You're important to me too." We sat together for a while longer, not talking, just being. When Bennett finally left, I felt less empty than before. Maybe I could be okay. Maybe I could build something new here. The next day, I accepted Simone's job offer. She was so happy she hugged me until I couldn't breathe. She enrolled me in a medical assistant certification program that would start in 2 months. Until then, I would keep working at the clinic and learning everything I could. I also made another decision. I would stay in Pine Valley. This town had given me sanctuary when I needed it most. These people had saved me without asking for anything in return. I owed it to them to stay, to contribute, to be part of the community. Thomas called with good news. The court had officially invalidated Helena's will and recognized me as my father's rightful heir. The process of transferring assets back to me was beginning. Within a few weeks, I would have access to bank accounts again. Within a few months, everything would be back in my name. What do you want to do first? Thomas asked. Pay off debts? Buy something you've been wanting? I want to pay Simone back. She loaned me money for the private investigator. Consider it done. Anything else? Start the paperwork for a charitable foundation. I want to call it the Robert Fletcher Foundation after my father. I want it to help families dealing with fraud and financial abuse. Thomas sounded impressed. That's a wonderful idea. I'll get started on the filing. 6 months after Helena's sentencing, the foundation was official. I had my father's money back. I had a job I loved. I had people who cared about me. I visited Dad's grave for the first time since everything happened. Someone, probably Helena before her arrest, had put a fancy headstone there. I hated it. It was too showy, too expensive. Not Dad's style at all. I made plans to replace it with something simpler. I sat by the grave and told him everything. About surviving the river, about Helena going to prison, about the foundation in his name. I told him I was okay. That I was building a good life. That I hoped he was proud of me. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. I chose to believe that was him answering. I still had bad days. Days when I couldn't stop thinking about the bridge and the cold water. Days when I was angry at Dad for not seeing through Helena sooner. Days when I felt guilty for being alive when Cara Mills wasn't. But I also had good days. Days when I laughed at Bennett's terrible jokes. Days when I helped a patient feel better. Days when I felt proud of myself for surviving. Slowly, the good days started outnumbering the bad ones. 1 year after Helena pushed me into the river, I stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Robert Fletcher Foundation's first community center. The building was small but bright and welcoming. Inside, we had resources for families dealing with financial fraud. Free legal consultations, financial counseling, support groups. Everything I wished I had when Helena was stealing from me. Bennett stood next to me holding the giant scissors for the ribbon. Simone stood on my other side, beaming with pride. Thomas Reed was there, along with Detective Warren and Patricia Cole. A small crowd of townspeople came to support the opening. I gave a short speech about my father and his legacy. About how he believed in helping people and building community. About how this foundation would continue his work. I didn't mention Helena or what she did. This day wasn't about her. It was about moving forward. We cut the ribbon and people applauded. Kids ran inside to check out the new space. I watched them and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Oh. After the ceremony, everyone went inside for refreshments. I stood outside for a moment looking at the sign above the door. Robert Fletcher Foundation, building stronger communities. Dad would have liked that. You did good, Bennett said, coming to stand beside me. We did good. I couldn't have done any of this without you and Simone. That's what friends are for. Friends. The word made me smile. A year ago I had no one. Now I had people who would stand by me no matter what. Hey, can I show you something? Bennett asked. Sure. He led me to his truck and we drove out of town. I didn't ask where we were going. I trusted him. We drove for about 20 minutes until we reached a clearing overlooking the valley. The view was breathtaking. Mountains in the distance, the town spread out below, the river winding through it all. I come here when I need to think, Bennett said. It helps me remember how big the world is. How whatever I'm dealing with is just one small part of everything. It's beautiful. I wanted you to see it. Wanted you to have a place you could come when things get hard. Because they will get hard sometimes. But then you can come here and remember that you survived the hardest thing already. Everything else is manageable. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who pulled me from the river and gave me a place to heal. Who stayed by my side through everything without asking for anything in return. Who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Bennett, I need to tell you something. What? I think I'm falling for you. He stared at me. You are. I am. And I know the timing is terrible. I know I'm still dealing with everything that happened. But I needed you to know. You're important to me. More than just a friend. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. The timing isn't terrible. It's perfect. Because I've been falling for you since the day I found you in those bushes. Really? Really? I just didn't want to say anything. Didn't want to pressure you when you were going through so much. I laughed. We're both idiots. Complete idiots. He kissed me then. Soft and gentle and perfect. And for the first time since that night on the bridge, I felt completely safe. Completely happy. Completely whole. We spent the rest of the afternoon at the Overlook, talking about the future. About what we wanted, what we hoped for, what we dreamed about. It felt good to make plans that didn't involve revenge or justice. Just life. Normal, beautiful life. I started my medical assistant certification program the next week. The classes were hard, but I loved them. I was good at it. Simone said I was a natural, that patients responded to me because I understood pain and recovery on a personal level. The foundation grew. We helped 3 families in the first month. People who had been scammed or defrauded or taken advantage of by people they trusted. We connected them with lawyers, helped them navigate the legal system, provided emotional support. It felt good to turn my pain into something that helped others. Helena sent me a letter from prison. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. Inside was a single page with a short message. I underestimated you. That was my mistake. You're stronger than I thought. Stronger than your father. Maybe that's why you survived. Congratulations on your victory. I hope it was worth it. There was no apology. No admission of guilt beyond what she had already given in court. Just acknowledgement that she lost and I won. I burned the letter. She didn't deserve my response. Months passed. I finished my certification and became an official medical assistant. Simone threw me a party at the clinic. Bennett made a cake that tasted terrible, but we ate it anyway because he tried so hard. Bennett and I moved in together. Not into the garage apartment but into a small house on the edge of town. It had a yard and a porch and room to grow. We adopted a dog from the shelter, a mutt named Scout who loved everyone and everything. I still had nightmares sometimes. Still woke up gasping thinking I was back in the river. But Bennett was always there. He would hold me until the panic passed. Remind me I was safe. Remind me I survived. Thomas called with news that all of my father's assets had been fully recovered. Every penny, every property, every investment. It was all mine now. The number was staggering. More money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I donated half of it to the foundation. The rest I invested carefully, creating a trust that would fund the foundation's work in perpetuity. I kept enough to live comfortably but not extravagantly. I didn't need much. I had everything that mattered. I finally went back to the old house, the one where I grew up. It looked smaller than I remembered. Sadder. The yard was overgrown. Windows were dirty. It felt abandoned, which I guess it was. I walked through the rooms, remembering happier times. Dad teaching me to ride a bike in the driveway. Mom's pictures on the mantel. Christmas mornings and birthday parties and ordinary Tuesday nights having dinner together. Helena had lived here too, but I chose not to think about that. I chose to remember the good parts. The parts that mattered. I decided to sell it. Too many ghosts lived in those walls. Instead, I used the money to buy the building next to the foundation and expanded our services. We added a job training center and a small legal clinic. We hired more staff. We helped more families. 2 years after the ribbon cutting, Bennett proposed. Nothing fancy. We were sitting on our porch watching the sunset when he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. I said yes before he finished the question. We got married at the Overlook where he first told me he loved me. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Simone was my maid of honor. Bennett's mother cried happy tears. Scout tried to eat the cake before we cut it. It was perfect. 3 years after Helena went to prison, I finally felt free of her. She was just a bad chapter in my story, not the whole book. I had written new chapters. Better ones. Chapters about love and healing and building something meaningful. I visited Dad's grave regularly. I told him about the foundation, about Bennett, about the life I was building. I told him I was happy. I think he would be glad to know that. Sometimes I thought about the girl who stood on that bridge, scared and angry and desperate. I thought about how she almost gave up in the river. How she crawled through the mud and nearly died in those bushes. That girl saved herself. She refused to quit. She built a case and took down a killer. She survived. I was proud of her. Proud of me. Because I didn't just survive. I lived. I thrived. I turned tragedy into purpose and pain into strength. Helena wanted me dead. Instead, she gave me a new life. A better life. One I built myself on my own terms. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all.